In this video, I'm going to build a complete Java application with Visual Studio Code. It will use the most used Java features and object-oriented programming features such as inheritance, composition, exception handling, file reading and writing and such. So let's start with this Visual Studio Code. First of all, I have downloaded the Visual Studio Code. I have installed Java Development Kit and also Maven, and then I have several extensions for Visual Studio Code, like this extension pack for Java. Then there is this Maven for Java and Project Manager, so I can start to play around with this Visual Studio Code. Right now I don't have anything here, so I can start a new project by this Ctrl+Shift+P, and I want to create a Java project. Let's use that. And the build tools, so I mentioned I have the Maven, so I'm using Maven here. Gradle would be also okay, but Maven is the tool I'm using right now. And let's take this quick start here, or we could even take this JDK 8, but it doesn't really matter if we are using this normal or this 8 version. Let's take this one and let's select the newest one. I am using my own domain, you can use whatever you wish. And this application is called Rocket Demo. And now I'm going to save it here. And now the Maven is building the project for me. And everything is fine, I just press enter and everything is okay. So now it's created. I can open it, and now I have the project here. So basically there is this configuration file which has all the necessary settings, like we are using the compiler version 1.7, unit version 4, Maven plugin versions, etc. But we don't need to worry about these, so we can close this. Then there is this source folder that is including our source codes, and then there is this target folder. When we are building the project, there will be this application file, class file that is like a compiled. But we are not using those either, we can just forget that. Then there is this source folder has this main folder that has all the code. So here is our code, and if we would be building some tests, then the tests would be here. But in this demo we are not building any unit tests, so let's skip that, but start building our program here. So we have the app.java here, and the aim is to build application where we could have some kind of a user interface that lets user build new rockets, launch those rockets, get the rocket information, save the rockets to a file, load the file, and in the behind the program running there is even a system event logger, so that we are just seeing that okay, this rocket is now flying and now we are saving the file, and we can read that log, what is happening in our application. That kind of a setting is here what we are going to build. So let's start by just modifying a bit this our main application file, so we are not writing hello world, we are just setting that the app is starting, right, like that. This is our starting point. So we are going to need a scanner, which is the Java way to read input from user. So let's first have a scanner. Which is reading our system in, which is the key part. So we are reading what is happening in the key part. Now the VS Code is underlining this because we are not using it, but it automatically imported the library, so we can now use the scanner. Good. So let's then have a while loop for our menu. And this is running as long as the exit parameter is false, and then we of course need to have this exit variable. So let's have a boolean exit which is false. So now our application is running forever, so let's not run it before we have a way to exit this program. So then let's print the menu. So number 1, create a new rocket. 2, launch a rocket. And 3, if the line is going to be very long, I can just press Alt plus Z and then it will be converted to the next line, the same line, like this. And 3, so print information of rockets. And 4, load rockets. 5, save rockets. 6, or actually let's have a 9, so that's the last option. Read the log file. And finally 0, end program. So these are the features we are going to build, and now we have the menu to describe to user what is going to be done with this program. So now we have the scanner. We can read input from keyboard. So let's check if the scanner has next. So there is something that we would get from keyboard. Then we just need some kind of variable. So we are going to parse. So this our menu works with integers. So let's get the integer to that variable, and we can do that by having some kind of a temporary variable, like a string input, which is now using this scanner, and we can have a next line. So it's providing us the whole line. So user can input whatever she wants and we can read it. And now we are then getting that integer from that string through integer class. There is this parse int method, so we can use this string input as a parameter. So now we are getting this string input, we are parsing it to integer, and then we have the number here in the variable called I. And then we can have a switch case to this I. So case 1 and break. So this is what we are now building. We have several cases. I am not quite sure why Visual Studio Code cannot handle this kind of a easy task, but that's how the cookie crumbles. 3, 4, 5, 9, 0, and then there is this default case that is the last one. So let's just have a default here. And default, let's print to user that the input was incorrect, like this. And of course, when the user inputs 0, the program should end, and now this break gets us out of this switch statement, but we would like to go out of this while loop. So let's have here just let's print user that thank you for using the application, like this. And then let's set as this exit variable is true. Now we can exit this program. Then let's try to run it. Okay, now we have the menu and we have ways to write and input something. Now we inputted string and we are trying to modify that string to integer and our program is crashing. So let's put some numbers there. Input was incorrect, so we don't have to have that kind of a switch case here. So let's have number 1, it's fine, number 9, it's fine, and then number 0 will end the program. So everything is working okay. Good. Now we have the basic structure here. We can run this program. Then let's start building the actual things here. So first let's add 2 folders here. First called main. This is a folder. It is also called package in Java. And let's have a second package called Rocket. And now we can move this our application file to this main folder, and then let's modify it so it is in the main package now. And then we can add new classes. So just add the Rocket class. And a Rocket class will be in its own file called rocket.java. So our Rocket class should have some kind of attributes, some kind of variables inside the class, features that class would have. So let's set that it has a string name and integer mass and also height. And now we are building a class and we would like to hide this information so that outside of the class these are not available. So we could set that they are private, but actually we want to provide these attributes to child class subclasses, so we are using the keyword protected like this. So this is protected information, but the child classes can access it. And then our Rocket would also need a constructor. So let's have a public Rocket. So this is the default constructor. It doesn't take any parameters. So we can just set that this default constructor is building like a default Rocket. So we can set another Rocket. So another constructor that takes parameters. So it's taking name, it's taking the height, and mass. And actually I did wrote and here, so it's taking integer, of course. And now in this constructor we are setting that this name equals name. So this name variable reflects to this parameter, and this name reflects to this object variable feature here. We could also have this look like this is a mass parameter, and then we are setting that mass equals mass parameter. This is also completely fine, but let's set that this height equals height like that. And now we can use this constructor here. So let's call it like this. So it's now calling this second constructor when we are giving 3 parameters like Falcon 9 It's 70 meters tall, and its mass is somehow something like 100,000 kilograms. So now Visual Studio Code is visualizing these parameters, what they are. And in Java, also in Python, you can use this underscore here if you wish to divide long numbers. So this can be without it or with it. It's just more easy to read this kind of a text. Now we would like to be able to launch these rockets. So let's build a method for that. So we have a public void launch. And let's build another method to support this launch operation. So we have a private void print count down. So it's only printing something. Let's take a parameter int count. So this is just the countdown that is printing all the numbers from, let's say, 0, from 10 to 0. And in this method we can call this print countdown, and we should give it some kind of a countdown. Let's give it just number 10. Now this method should print the numbers 10, 9, 8, 7 and so on until it's 0 and the rocket is then launched. Let's make this method a recursive. So we can just first check that if this count is less than 0, then we are done and we just return. Otherwise, we can print the number count plus space there. So we are printing this in the same line. We are not printing a new line there. And then we are calling this print countdown with this count -1. So we are going from 10 to 0. And now we are printing everything in the same line. So then we are going to need a new line here. Like this. This is just printing as the line break. So after we are printing the countdown, then we can just print out that this rocket, it has a name, is flying to this space, like this. Okay, now we have the rocket here. And this is in the package rocket, and our application itself is in the package main. Let's build a rocket then. So we have a method, we have a way here to build a new rocket. So let's just first have a rocket here. So we are just having a rocket which equals null. And then in this first place we are just creating a new rocket. So then this our rocket equals new rocket, and we are giving it a string input. Let's say Starship 120 meters, and the mass is, let's say, 1 million kilograms. I am not quite sure how much it actually is. And now we have a rocket in this rocket variable, and then we can launch it in this case too. So we have a method called launch. Let's just launch it. Let's see if our program is working. So first let's create a rocket, and then let's launch a rocket. Now it is working. So first we got this countdown from 10 to 0, and then the Starship is flying to the space. Yeah, it seems to be working. let's remove the here. I don't think it's necessary to have it there. Now we have a one rocket. What if we would like to have several rockets? To have several rockets, we would also, of course, need some kind of a data structure. Array list here is completely fine. We could have an array list here in the main part, but let's try to use this so that this our app class, our main static method, it's only for the user interface. So let's build another class called storage. And this is also a class, not interface or anything else. And here we are just building a place that will store our rockets. It will take care of saving them in writing them to file and reading them from file and these kind of things. So we are going to need the data structure. Private array list rockets new array list. Like this, and we need to import this array list so it will work. Now we have the correct class, and rocket is also not known, so we need to also import the rocket. Now we are importing this our rocket from the rocket package. Very good. Now we have the place for these rockets. Of course, we would need to have some kind of a way to add rocket and get rocket and maybe even remove the rocket, but let's first have this add rocket feature. So this is a just simple method that it's getting a parameter rocket, and now this our rockets array list, we are just adding this rocket like that. This is very simple method. So it's getting a parameter rocket and then it's just saving this new rocket to this rockets array. Everything is working very well. We would also need a benefit so that we would have some kind of a method to list all the rockets. So let's build that kind of a method. List rockets. It's taking no parameters and it's returning nothing, so it's just going through this list of rockets and then printing their name, for example. So let's first have a temporary variable I, which is 0, and then we are going through this rockets array. So it's this rockets, and we are getting one rocket out of that, and the type of this variable is rocket. So now we have one rocket at a time, and then we can just print out first this I, and then we are increasing it. So in the first round it will be 0, and then we will increase it to 1, 2, and so on. And then we are just printing the rocket name, but do we have access to that name? So this rocket name is not visible because we have said that it's protected. So we need to use some kind of a method get name here so that we can get its name. We do not have this kind of a method, so let's go and build the method. So let's build a public method. It's returning string get name, and the only thing is that is happening here, this is returning the name like this. So now our storage can list all the rockets. Now this is used, for example, in our menu. We can quickly get all the rockets and some kind of ID for them to be then used by the user interface. We would also like to list all the rocket information, not just their name. So let's just copy paste this method and let's list rockets information. And here we do not need anything variables, we are just using this rocket and its method print information. And we do not have this kind of a method, so we need to build that. So we have a public method called print information. It does not return anything, it does not take any parameters. It is just printing all the necessary things. So first let's print the name of the rocket. So first three stars, then the name, plus let's have an ID for this rocket too. So we are printing the ID. We still don't have it, but let's have it soon. So like this. Let's add an ID here. Let's have it so it's a string, not string buffer, but string. So how is this ID then built? Let's use this constructor so that we would have an ID which would be NCC, yeah, I like Star Trek, and then some kind of a number. Let's use math library for this, so it's giving us this pseudo random, which is completely fine. Let's multiply this by 90,000 and then add 1,000 here, so it's kind of okay. And now we are getting a number here. Let's see if this is working, or do we? Yeah, we are actually, this is getting as a floating point number, so it's a decimal number. We need to cast it to the integer. And now first we are multiplying it, and then the result we are then casting. So this should be now working, and now we have the print information. We will continue with this, but let's add here in our application. I don't know if we need this kind of variable. Let's first have a storage here. Like this. Now we have a storage. So when we are now building a new starship here, we can add it to the storage. So add rocket, and now this rocket is added to the storage. And then in this launch, we would need to have some kind of a way to get this rocket out of this storage. But let's first now build this print information of rockets. So this third one. So let's here call the storage list rocket information, like this one. And then let's try to run it. So let's first create a few rockets. Now there are 3 rockets, and then we are printing the information. Now we are getting that we have 3 starships and they have different IDs here. So this is working, so very good. We can continue with this print information. So we do have more information than just the name. We have the height, So it's like 10 and 100 meters or such, and then we have the mass. Which is kilograms. Like that. Our rocket is very simple, it just has height and mass. But what if it would actually have rocket engines inside it? So every rocket has at least one rocket engine, usually more than just one. So let's build another class called rocket engine. Rocket engine.java. Like this, and its class. In a way, this is a very simple class. We are just building it some information. It has a name, it has a power, and nothing more. So private string name and private int power, like that. Very simple. And then we have a constructor which takes parameter string name and int power, and it just sets these. Like that. But of course, to get out of this information from this class or the object, we would need to have some kind of a method. Let's build a public void print in information. And this is just printing out that name, so rocket name, and its power, which is kilonewtons, like that. A very simple rocket engine, and then we can have this rocket itself can now have these rocket engines. So we don't know how many, might be only one, might be 20. So let's build an array list here. So this array list has rocket engines. It's called engines. It's a new array list, like that. And now our default rocket here, it could have like these engines. We could add some kind of an engine, like a new rocket engine, only one engine. Let's say Merlin 9. It doesn't have any height, it has a power, let's say 1600 kilonewtons, like this. Of course this Falcon 9 has 9 engines, but in our case it has 2 engines, and then we have the print information here. We can now add for each loop, so we are iterating over the engines, and type is rocket engine, and this is just one engine, and then we can just print each information like this. And once again we can try and see how our program is now working. Let's create 2 rockets and then print information, and we are not getting anything out of the engines. Now these engines are of course not working because we are here building starships, not just rockets without any parameters. So let's remove this and let's try to run it again. Let's create rockets, let's print information, and now these default rockets have now 2 engines and everything is working. But this is not what we want. We are not building a default rockets, we are building a real rocket. So let's have a new class is called starship.java, and then let's build another class called SLS.java. So we have also this space launch system. So space launch system and Starship, they are both extending the rocket class like this. And the only thing we need to have in this SLS class is the constructor. So public SLS. It does not take any parameters. It is calling this super class constructor. It's giving us parameter SLS, the name, the height is 120 meters, and the mass is something like 3 million kilograms. I am not definitely sure how much it should be actually. And then it has 4 engines, although it has also solid rocket boosters, but in this example those are skipped. Let's have just some while loop to build all these rockets and rocket engines. So let's add engines like a new rocket engine. Name is RS-25, so the same engine that has were on those space shuttles, and its power is 1300 kilonewtons. So this is the SLS part. So this is now fully functioning. So let's just copy paste this to our Starship. And of course here the constructor name would be Starship, and this is also extending this rocket like this. And its name is not SLS, it's Starship. It's 130 meters and the mass is like 5 million kilograms. And it has 33 engines, and they are not RS-25, they are Raptors. Let's have Raptor 2 engine, and it's building 1600 kilonewtons per engine. And now this is like working very much. Now we can have 2 different kind of rockets. Then we could modify this so that we could actually build 2 of those newly designed rockets. So let's first give a user a hint that we are having this option. So 1, build SLS, and 2, build Starship like this. And then just copy paste this here. And now this is a duplicate local variable, so let's modify its called type string or type input. So then we are getting let's have this like int type, and now based on the type we can then build a different rocket. So if type equals 1, we can add to this storage add rocket, and then we can add new SLS rocket. Very simple. And then else if remove this, we are adding a Starship. And now these are not available, so let's import both of the classes like this. And let's test our program. Let's create a SLS and let's create a Starship, and then let's create a second SLS. Let's print all the information. And first we have the SLS here, and then we have the second SLS, and we did not get any starship here. And it's because we have a mistake here, so this should be of course 2. So let's run this again. Let's create a starship and let's create an SLS. Let's see their information. So now we have this starship that has quite a few Raptor engines, and then we have this SLS that has only 4 RS-25 engines. Okay, so it's working. We can have 2 different types of rockets, and then we can launch them after we have asked what rocket we are actually launching. So this is now not working, this number 2. For first we need to use this storage list rockets. So now it's giving us the list of the rockets, and then we can ask user which one of those she wants to launch. And then we are just getting some kind of ID for that. So it's integer parse int, and we are getting a scanner next line. So it's giving us the. So we are just now simplifying this to get the ID. And after this, we would need to get the actual rocket from the storage. So we would have some kind of rocket. And now I'm removing this from there. We are not probably going to need it. So rocket equals storage get rocket by ID. And we are giving it this parameter, this ID. No, now we do not have this kind of a method, so let's go and build that. So this is actually very simple. So we have a public method that is returning us a rocket, get rocket by ID, and this ID is just integer that is getting that we are getting from the menu, and then we are returning something, return rockets. We would have this get ID. This would get us the rocket. That would be fine, but when we are launching a rocket to space, it will basically cease to exist. We cannot launch SLS twice. We can launch Falcon and Starship, but let's first. Okay, let's see how it works with this get port, and then we have the rocket, and then we can launch it. Let's try it. Let's create SLS. Let's create SLS, and let's create a Starship. Let's launch a rocket. Now we have 3 rockets. Let's launch this Starship. Starship is flying to space. Let's launch SLS. SLS is flying to space, and we still have all these 3 rockets. None of them cease to exist, which would be the case if they would be actually flying. Let's continue, so that only when we are launching SLS, it will like go to space, but that's not, it cannot land. But if we are flying and launching Starship, we will get that back. So let's go and modify our rocket class a bit. So we have this launching method here. Let's modify that so it's returning itself. First it will return, by default it will return nothing, so the rocket is disposed. it only one time launches. But in the Starship we will override this. So let's copy paste this code into the Starship and we will override this method. And now it says that this print countdown is a method in a rocket, but it's not visible in a Starship. But wait a second, it should be visible. We have made a mistake. So this print countdown is a private when it should be protected. It's not visible to outside, but it's visible to the Starship. Now it's going to work. So it's going to fly to space and then it's going to land. So we are calling this land method, which is just something. Let's have this like a private void land. Lands back to Earth. Like this. So it's now it's landing and then we can return it with this keyword. Like this, it's going to be rocket is going to be launched. So let's modify this a bit. So this is a rocket from storage. And now the rocket from storage is going to be launched. And then we are going to get a rocket let's call it launched rocket. Yeah, and now we need to check if this launched rocket is instance of rocket. Then we can add this rocket back to storage. Add rocket, launched rocket. Yeah. So if we are launching just SLS, it is not returning anything, it's actually just returning this null. But if we are launching Starship, it will return itself, so we can then add it back to the storage. And now when we are getting a rocket from storage, we should not use this just get, but remove. So we are getting it, but we are also removing it from the array list. Let's go and run this program. Once again, let's create a few rockets. And now we have the SLS, SLS and Starship. Let's launch rockets. Let's get this Starship. Let's launch it. So Starship is flying to space and Starship lands back to Earth and it's still there. So now we can launch. Let's launch this first SLS. So SLS is flying to space and now we're trying to launch it again. It doesn't exist anymore. We can still launch this another one SLS and now we only have this Starship left here to be launched and it's still launching and landing back. So everything is working as supposed to. Very good. And what next? Let's build this event logger so that we can have all the events logged while we are using this program. So event logger.java like this, and it is also a class. So this is a pretty simple class. It's only taking something to be written in a log, and then we have a method to read the log. So let's first have the file name. So we have a just private string. This is a final, so we cannot modify it after it has been set. No, it's not final, but file name like this. And now this is not used. and not even initialized, but that we can do in a constructor. Event logger, the constructor does not take anything. We are just setting this file name to be log.txt. So just basic text file that would include everything we are logging there. And then we will need two methods. First we have this public void write log. It's taking something to be written, so it's log text like this. And then we have the method to read the log, and this reading part is also printing all the text to the screen. So it's reading the text from file and then putting it to the screen. So first let's go with this writing part. So we are going to need to write something into a file. How can we do that? So we are going to need a buffered reader. No, actually writer, of course. So it's called rock writer, and it's a new buffered writer. But this is just a buffered writer, it cannot do anything by itself, so we are going to use a file writer. That is the actual thing that is going to write anything. So it needs parameter. First it will need a file name. Okay, we have the file name here. Then it will give a null or false. This null, we are not using this kind of version of the constructor. We are giving it parameter true, so it's appending all the written text after the previous one. So we are not starting the file again every time we are writing something, but we are adding text in the end of the file. We do not have this kind of, so we are importing it. So, and also this file writer was imported. Now this is providing us an exception. So let's surround this with try catch. So we are getting an IO exception if there is something that cannot be handled. So this is the object we can use to write data to a file. So let's then use it. Log writer write, and what we are going to write is this log text, and in the end we are writing also a new line character, and then we are just closing this object, and then we can give a user to message that a log was written. Let's put it a log event was written like this. And if some error happens, then we can also print something to the error, or in this case we are just giving a user a note that error while writing a log file, writing to a log file, like that. So now we have a simple writing here. Let's test it so that when we are starting the programming, so it's giving us the event logger new event logger. So now we have this logger, and we can write log some kind of text. So let's first write that app is started, and let's then start this program. And now we see that we have now here a log text. So let's just stop the program. Let's start it again and let's stop it again, and let's see what is in here. So now we have 2 times the app has been started, so it is working. We are getting stuff to our log file. So let's then add a few more tricks. So first of all, let's copy paste this. Here in the end, let's see what is this, what color should I follow? Yes, this. So let's write here that app is stopped. Let's as user has stopped to use the app. Something like this. And we should also close the scanner like this in the end. And now we are getting more text to our log, not there, but here. Now the app has been started and user has stopped to use the app. So it is working. And now we can add this event logger to various places. So first we need to add it to our storage. So we have this logger. Let's add it to our storage. So this storage is taking the app, not app, but the event logger. So public storage, it is taking the event logger like this, and then we need to save it private event logger like this, and this logger equals this logger. So now we can use the event logger even here. We could use it here when we are adding rocket or listing, but let's not use it right now there. We are using it when we are saving the rockets to a file or reading them from there. But we can use this logger also here in the switch case. So we have been creating a new rocket. So then let's write log. Let's write a log event that we have been creating a new rocket. So rocket has been created. But now we do not know what rocket it was that has been created, so we need to modify this a bit. So let's get this here, and we have a rocket. Let's have just R equals null, and then R equals SLS. Here it equals starship at rocket R, and then here R get name. Rocket has been created, and we do not have this get name here in the rocket. It seems it is there, so it should work. Yeah, of course. Let's have it in a correct format like this. Now we are adding a rocket, and it should provide us a event to our log. So starship has been created and SLS rocket has been created. So yeah, it is working. And then we can also add it this here. So we are launching a rocket. Launched rocket get name has been launched. Something like this. Yep. Let's get back to the event logger, and now we have no way to read the log. So let's build that next. So we have the buffered writer here when we were writing to a file. Then of course we will need a buffered reader when we are reading from the file. So buffered reader equals new buffered reader, which is then getting a new file reader, and we are just getting the file name as a parameter to this. So there is this file name and it is going to read the file. And once again we need to use these try catches so that our application would not crash if there wouldn't be the file or something like that. And we can just copy paste this error text here, error while reading a log file. And now we have the log reader here. We can then just read. And how we do this reading, we can use while loop here. So while we are reading a line, so we are going to need some kind of a string called line here, and this line equals this log reader read line. So this is reading a line, and until this is something else than null, then we are reading a text from the file. And after that we can just print it to the screen. Very simple. And there are line endings, new line characters in the file, but they get removed, so we will need to use this print line. Now this is reading the log, so we can use this. We have this option 9, read from the log file. So let's use this logger read log here. Let's run. And now we have some kind of unhandled EO exception. Yeah. So now we are only handling the file not found exception, but this, when we are reading from the file, it can also produce us IO exceptions. So let's modify this so that we are just taking care of IO exception, which includes also the file not found exception. Now we can run the program, and there is this option 9, read the log file. Let's read it, and it's giving us the text that is in the log file. Very good. And now we are having this kind of a log here. So it is basically saying all the things we want to get to know, but this is kind of ugly, stupid, it has not enough information, etc. Let's modify this a bit so that it would also include some kind of a timestamp. There are plenty of ways to get this timestamp. Let's use the local date time class. Local date time date, and this is, now we are not using a constructor here. We are not building a new object. We are just getting a from this is a class method we are using to get the correct date, and then we can format this date to any format we would like to have them. So let's have a date time format there, and we are also here using this class method, and it has this off pattern, and now we are getting just giving a some kind of a pattern we want to use when we are logging the date time. So first we are using this kind of format. So first there is year with 4 digits, then month with 2 digits and day with 2 digits, and then hours dot minutes dot seconds. So this is in a way Finnish format. We are using a dot here, not colon. And now we have the date and the formatter. Let's write it in the file. So we are here writing the log text, but let's add also the timestamp. So first we have a square bracket, then a date, and using its format method, and we are giving a parameter, this formatter, that is giving us the correct format then. And then close these brackets and let's have a space there and plus sign here. It should be okay. Let's see what is going to happen. And now if we can, let's create a rocket. Let's launch it, and then we are getting a null point exception. Let's see, app 54. So launched rocket. Of course, this would not work at all because this would be null when we are launching SLS. So let's ask this rocket from storage the get name, so this will work. So let's try it again. Let's create a starship. Let's launch first starship. Let's launch SLS. Now it did not crash, and now we can read the log file. Now we have the timestamps here. Yeah, this is good. App is started, SLS created, yeah, launched. Yeah, good. Let's modify a few things here. So first of all, exit the program, and here the app has been, no, app is starting, app has been started. And then let's go to this log file and to remove these not good logs. Yeah. Now we have the logging system working fine. We do not need anything else here. But then we would also like to save the rockets to a file, because now we are, every time we are starting the program, we will need to recreate the rockets and start playing with them. So let's build the methods to this storage class so that we can save and load the rockets. So public void save rockets, like this. And then we will also have the method called load rockets. So this is pretty much the same that we did here with the event logger, but when we are using objects that we want to write to a file, we have few things we want to build first. So let's have a object output stream, and this is what we are using when we are writing something. So we are building a rocket writer and new object output stream, and we are giving a new file output stream, and then we are going to need a file name. So we are not needing this one because we are always overriding the file. The old rockets will be overwritten with the new rocket. So let's have a final private string file name, and this file name is called rockets.data. So in the end, this rockets.data is not going to be a text file, it's going to be a binary file. And we need to use try catch. So we can get file not found exception, or we can get IO exception. But let's see, so we have this rocket writer that we can now use to write stuff, so write objects, and we are writing these rockets to a file, and then we are just closing the file, and we can use then this our logger, write log, so rockets were saved to a file. So this is quite simple how we are writing a data that is not just text to a file. We are using object output stream that is using file output stream. And now let's do the same here in the reading part. We are not using output stream, but in input stream. And this is the rocket reader. Then we are importing this, and we need to use this try catch here. Now we can also get the file not found exception or something more general IO exception. So let's use, we have this rockets that we are going to read, rockets, and it's going to be this rocket reader read object like this. And now there is an error because we need to cast, it is reading some kind of object, but this rockets is an array list that has rockets inside it. So let's have a casting there. And now we can get a new error, a new exception called class not found exception, but we can handle it here. And after this we can just use this rocket reader close to close this, and once again we can log this to our log. Rockets were loaded from a file like this, and then in our app we would like to use those options. So here in the for, we are just using the save rockets. Now we are actually using here, this was load rockets, and here is the save part, save rockets. Yeah, let's see. First we try to load rockets. It will try to crash, but it doesn't crash because we have the try catch. We can still continue the program. Let's create a new rocket. Let's create SLS, and let's try to now save it to a file. And now it did not work because this SLS is not serializable. So this is the thing when we are using, when we are saving data objects to a file, then our classes need to be implementing serializable interface. It is only like mentioning to the Java that this file can be written to a file, or it can be sent as a data stream to over internet or something like that. So let's implement this serializable interface like this. And now, by the way, we are using these SLSs and starships, so we are not really building rockets. This is just a super class, so let's modify this is an abstract class. So we cannot anymore build a simple rocket, we can only build SLSs or starships. Let's see. Oh no, we are still missing one thing because our rocket engine itself is also saved. So we need to implement serializable also here in the rocket engine. And now let's try this again. Let's create Starship, SLS. Let's see, we have 2 SLSs and 2 Starships. Everything is working there. Great. Let's try to save this. Log event was written, and then there is rockets.data. Let's see this log event. What we have here. Rockets were saved to a file. Yeah, and then we stop the app. And there is a dot, and I am so perfectionist that I want to get rid of that. Like this. And now it's similar probably everywhere. Yeah, so there is this rockets.data. Let's try to open it. So this file is not displayed in the text editor because it's either binary or it uses unsupported text encoding. It is binary file, so it's not. This is not text. But then let's just open it, and here we can see that it has all the data. But this is not text. But we can still figure something out. That here we have SLS, it seems, and here is its ID. These are probably some kind of rocket engines, starships, rocket engines, and etc. But now if we could modify it, then this data would be not readable anymore, so we are not modifying at all. Okay, now our program is pretty much working as we aimed. There are almost everything. Let's build a few more things. So let's first build an interface. So I was mentioning that this is an interface. This is just a very, let's say, stupid interface because it's only telling the Java that this class can be sent to a file or over internet or as the object. Let's build a second interface called start stop.java. And this is an interface. So what is an interface? It is like a class, but it cannot have any member variables at all. So there are just function prototypes or function names that something will then implement. So let's have 2 methods, start and stop. Very simple interface. So now every class that is going to implement this interface must then have methods for starting and stopping. So let's have a rocket engine that is now implementing this start stop like this. And now there is an error because the rocket engine must implement the start and stop method. Then let's implement them. Ooh. Now we have the start method, and then we have a stop method also. Stop is shut down, or it's actually shutting down. Yeah, and we could have the same in a rocket. So let's go here, and this is also implementing this start stop interface, and now we need to build those start and stop methods. And let's just copy paste these from the rocket engine. As you can probably guess, this is pretty much just an example how to use interface. This is not the smartest example, but it is just an example. So when the rocket itself is stopping, it's like shutting down, it's completely fine. But when this rocket is starting, it's printing the rocket itself, it's starting, but it also is starting all the engines. So rocket engine like this, and now we can call this engine start method. And now no one is calling this start method, so when we are calling this launch, we are printing the countdown, and then we are calling this start method, and we need to also include this in here in the starship. After countdown it's starting. Let's see what is going to happen. So we have the file. Let's try to load the rockets now, and we got error, and the error is local class incompatible. Actually, we have not used this serializable keyword at all, but the error is that we saved the rockets to a file, and now we have modified, we have added this start-stop interface. We are implementing that. Now the class is not anymore the same, so that's why we need to resave or recreate those rockets and then save the file again. Let's add a serialized version UID. This is not mandatory, but it's just something that it used when we are serializing something. So let's add this to the rocket engine and to the rocket itself, so that we would have this. This is just a number ID, and let's run it again. And so this is only used in the serialized process. Let's create a process. Let's create Starship, SLS. Let's launch a rocket. Let's launch this Starship. Now it's the first 0th rocket in our array list. Now it has been launched and it has been landing back. And now if we go back to the launch rocket, now it's in the index 2 because it was first removed from the array list, and then it was put back to this rocket list array list, rockets array list. So now we have it there, and we can of course then launch it again. Let's now then save these rockets and then exit the program and run it again. And now we should be able to load the rockets. Yeah, and let's see, we have the rockets back there. And if we are launching the SLS, now it's printing us that there is this countdown, then SLS is starting, all of its engines are starting, and then the SLS is flying to space and everything is going smooth. Maybe we should also call this stop method because it is not being called at all. But I don't know, does it? When we are launching, we are starting it. Maybe it's okay. We could hear a call stop method, but let's skip that. Then I was mentioning in the beginning that what if these rockets get exploded? What would happen then? Because rockets are a piece of technology that sometimes explode. So what would happen then? So how could we handle this, that the launch is a failure and the rocket is crashing? Now if we are just launching SLS, it will always return null. But if we are launching a Starship, then it is returning itself. But if it's exploding, then it would not. Okay, so let's have it so that let's build a exception class. So let's call it a rocket fail exception in Java. And this is extending the exception class like this. basically when we are building our own exceptions, we are always extending the exception class or some kind of our own exception class or something like that. But this is just very simple rocket fail exception. There is this default constructor, and then there is constructor with a string message. So string message, and it is just giving this message to the super class, which is this exception class. So this is a very simple thing. So these exception class do not need to be very big. They are just to inform that we have some kind of an exception, and the name itself is the most important thing. So it identifies that this is a rocket fail exception. And then our rocket, or let's go with this Starship. Our rockets can have these exceptions, so it's not getting into space. So here in the first we just check that if math random times 10 is bigger than 8, so basically 1 out of 10 times the rocket is going to explode. And what we are doing, we are just throwing a new rocket exception, and we are giving it a message: Starship exploded, like this. And this is very sad situation. A rocket fail exception it should be. Okay, now VS Code is underlining everything here, so it's saying that this exception is unhandled. Okay, we need to handle it. And we could do it like we did with the file reading and writing. So let's put some try catch here. But now in the end we would get to this part, and then we would print that rocket is flying to space, which is not true. So let's not use the try catch here, but let's add throws declaration. So now this method is throwing rocket fail exceptions, and we are not anymore using these lines of code when this exception will happen. And now this is not anymore compatible with the rocket launch, so we need to go there and modify that. So let's just copy paste this code to the rocket class, and we have a launch here, and let's put it here. Was it correct? Yeah, it seems to be. And now we are getting to our app class, and here is the launch. And now this is there is unhandled exception. As this launch is dropping this exception, it is throwing it further, so we need to handle it here, or we could throw it further. But as we are already in our main method, you need to take care of it. So let's just add try catch here, and let's see. Now we have a launched rocket, and we are going to move this code here, so it is working. And if it's not, then we are doing something. For example, if our rocket has been exploding, then we could write a log that launched rocket exploded, like this. And now this is, now we need, okay, what is this? May not have been initialized. Let's add equals null here. Let's see how this is working. So let's go now. Basically all of our rockets can explode. Let's make it so that this Starship is exploding very often. And now we can have the situation that we cannot read the we could load the rockets. So let's add an answer how many rockets we have. Yeah, let's Let's fly this starship, and now something happened. Starship exploded, and let's see, our program is still up and running, so it did not crash, which was very good. And we are now here printing the stack trace, which is here in the screen, but this is not something that we would like to have on the screen. Let's get this away, and we have this error text here, so let's use that. So let's print that error get message like this. Let's try this again. I think we do not have any rockets. No, we do not have any rockets because I do not load any rockets. So let's load them again, and we now have, once again, the starship is still back. And now the starship exploded. Oh, that was very sad. This was the message that was provided us here as an exception message, and then we used to print that exception message here. So starship exploded. Now let's modify it so that it would not explode that often. And as it exploded, it doesn't exist anymore in the program. So let's try this again. Let's load the rockets, launch the rockets, and now the starship did not explode, so it started and it was flying and it then landed back. Let's create a few SLSs more, and then let's launch. Let's try to get this SLS to explode. It should, 1 out of 10 should explode. Let's see if we can get any of these SLSs to explode. Okay, it did provide us text now this SLS was exploding. We have a mistake here. So this rocket is now providing us text starship exploded, which is not true, because it should provide a message that name plus exploded. Yeah, now we have fixed the bug. So here is a quite comprehensive demo how you can build Java application with Visual Studio Code. How do you use inheritance? For example, this SLS class is inherited from Rocket class. Of course, this video demonstration did not include any theory. Theory is on other videos, but this is a demonstration video, just providing the information how to use Java in real life, how to build different things with it. And in this application we used inheritance, we used abstract class, so this rocket class is now abstract, you cannot create an object out of it. We used interfaces, so we have this start stop interface. We have a file writing and reading, both text here and then objects here. They are both working. Then we have this event logger, which is also using this local date time and date formatter to write timestamps. So it is also working. We are reading the user input through scanner and parsing that in user input string to integer, etc, etc. So this is a fully functioning Java application that can be then further developed if one finds it necessary. So if you find this any interesting and useful, then just use it as you wish. Otherwise, don't use it. But have a nice day.